I'm going to tell you why there's 3 areas where Florida State is going to hit big plays against the Wake Forest Demon Deacons.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into another episode of Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, and today is one of my favorite shows. We're going to talk about mismatches, and you can get this podcast wherever you get your podcast for free and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. As I said in the opening, there's going to be 3 main reasons that Florida State can hit big plays, and those are number 1, Keon Coleman. They don't have anybody to guard him. Number 2, you're talking about play action, and you're going to get opportunities with it because the third section is Florida State doesn't have 1. They don't have 2, they don't have 3, but they really have 4 running backs because I count Jordan Travis as part of that, the accumulation, if you will, of the great runners in the backfield, Jordan included, is going to draw up that defense at some point, and a few of those opportunities over the top. Watch out for Jaheim Bell, among others, Darian Williamson. It's going to be big. A little extra prediction before we go into it. 5 plays for the Noles on offense will accumulate up to 175, if not more yards in this game. I just think it's going to be big play Noles personified against Wake Forest. So we'll see if I'm right. But before I go into it anymore, we're going to talk a little bit about it here in just a second. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Makes every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On to get started. So here are the basic numbers, just to make it proof that Florida State has a huge advantage. Not just an advantage, but here we go. These are 6 defensive stats for Wake, and then 6 that are on the other side for Florida State's offense that go against each other. You can read them however you want in your head, but they are the numbers. These are facts, and you're in the middle of the season. These numbers are more bona fide. Florida State's passing defense, 238.6 a game. That is 85th in the nation. Not a good sign when you're going against Florida State. Rush D, not bad, 128.3. That's 50th. To be honest, it's a little better for Wake than I anticipated. Total defense, 366.9, 62nd. Not really shocking, but again, the pass defense is the issue. Scoring D, 22.1. That's a little better than I anticipated. Now, there's a reason for that. We'll come into here in just a second. That's 46. Not terrible. The big problem are plays of 20 or more yards that Wake gives up. They've done that 31 times. That's 60th in the nation. Florida State is a big play offense, and that's why I did the podcast lead in like I did. Again, the numbers do not lie. The one category, shockingly, and good for Wake Forest, for this, 36.8% red zone touchdown percentage. So when another team gets inside Wake's 20, only 36.8% of the time do they score. They've given up 7 touchdowns, which is 7th in the nation. Congrats. The problem is I think Florida State's going to score before they get to the 20 at least twice, maybe 3 or 4 times. So that's a problem. On the flip side, for the Noles, 271.4 is their passing offense, 37th in the nation. Rushing, 173.7, that's 47th. Total, 445.1, that's 24th. Here's the key, and these numbers just show you how efficient they are when they get a chance. Scoring is 41.6, that's 5th in the nation. Florida State hits big plays and punches it. 20-plus yard plays, 39 of them, that's 30th in the nation. Red zone touchdown percentage, 75th. They've scored 21 of 28 attempts and overall 27 of 28. So only one time they didn't score. That is number 17 in the nation, though, just on red zone touchdown percentage. So 2 points here right off the bat. And again, it's my overall theme. Florida State is going to hit big plays. It's not debatable. The numbers are there. They out-recruit him. Keon Coleman's a dude. Nobody's guarding him. LSU couldn't guard him. Why would I think Wake Forest is going to guard him? Why should you? Jordan Travis, It's still Jordan Travis. The offensive line is healthier. They've been playing 8 guys, by the way. That's pretty impressive. Florida State has a chance now, post Duke, just like I talked about in the episode on Tuesday, to drop the hammer. You want that spot to take away for at least the next team in front of you for now for the AP poll. We'll see about the college football poll. You got to have goals. You're probably going to win the ACC. Here's another one. Move up in the polls. These kids can say they don't talk about it, but I guarantee amongst themselves they do. Here's a chance to do it, man. Drop a 50 burger on the road, win 51 to 17 or something. You can do that. We'll see. But these numbers tell me a couple things. Number one, they're probably going to try to take Keon away early, and I assume Johnny's not going to play. I'm just going to assume. If there's any question against an opponent like this, why would you risk it? Same with Destyn Hill. If he can play, so be it, but prove me wrong, I don't think he's going to be in the lineup. I don't know, but we shall see. But Florida State, I'm not shedding a tear. There are 3 running backs. One of them can play in the slot, especially somebody like Tofili. Ward only knows he's fast enough. He's taken a couple to the house each of the last 2 weeks, weaving his way through guys and outrunning players. They're going to be just fine there. Screens, draws, wide receiver screens, tunnel screens. Florida State, out athlete Wake Forest on a couple of plays. Even on 3rd and 9, they might have a guy that gets through. That's the difference. They also have the ability, once they do that a few times, Wake is going to do one of 2 things, if not both at the same. They're just going to say, screw it. We might as well blitz and or bring guys up to try to create negatives, or they're just going to get annihilated if they want to do that and just give up 7-8 yards of play, whatever. But 2nd down and 3 doesn't work for any defense. So when that happens, Keon's going to have more one-on-ones. And again, Jaheim Bell is kind of the wild card in all this. I don't think any team has a linebacker that can cover him. Who's going to do it for Wake? Are they going to have a safety that's a good guy to do it? I don't know enough about them, even studying them a little bit, to say one guy is that player. I'm going to dig a little bit more into that before next show, but I don't think, based on what I've seen numbers-wise and a little bit that I've seen them just watching some TV for their game against Pitt, etc. That was an exciting game, by the way, at the end that they won, but they don't have anybody. They just don't. I'm going to guess Florida State rushes for $150, maybe 180. Kind of depends on the end of the game, who's in, what the score is, what Florida State tries to do, but I don't think they're going to try to embarrass anybody if they're up 20 points, which I expect them to be with 5 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. So with that being stated, they'll probably run for about 150 to 180, but it's going to be the big play Noles. I think Jordan Travis goes for 300 yards, and 125 to 150 of it will be on about 3 plays. And about 175 yards will be their top 5 plays minimum. It could be more. I would not be surprised if 5 plays went for 225 yards, because there could be an 80-yarder in this game. That's a lot of yards in a play. But somebody like Rodney Hill gets it sweep. You miss a run fit, bye-bye. Same thing with Tofili. You blitz, we throw a screen. He proved it. The last 2 weeks, he gets the primer, bye-bye. We all know what Trey Benson can do, and if you miss a tackle against Jordan Travis, even if it's just using his feet as a way to just try to get 5 yards, he might make the first guy miss, and he might make the second guy miss too. I don't think Wake Forest is going to be able to tackle Florida State, in case you haven't figured it out. They're just not good enough. And quite frankly, I don't think, and I'm not picking on them. It's not like they're bad or anything. But at the same time, you're talking about a team that just doesn't have the same kind of skill and the depth. It's something I talked about yesterday's show. In the second half, you'll see that as well. If Florida State has 180 to 200 at halftime in yardage, don't panic. Florida State won't, because their depth will take over in the second half. Recruiting. I talk about it all the time. This game will be proof of it. And again, just to reiterate, Keon, play action, and then the legs. Specifically, Jordan Travis is the 4th guy to go along with Benson, Tofili. And I mean, what a luxury to have Rodney is like your 3rd guy. Keziah, maybe he's the 4th. Maybe he's the 3rd. I mean, they're loaded at running back. There's going to be a few big plays where they just make players miss. Just my opinion. So going into segment 2, we're going to talk about something a little bit different here, because the mismatch, obviously, in the first segment, is Florida State's passing game, and then that's going to help them get some runs going too. It's going to be yin and yang. They're going to play off each other. Second segment is which specific player, besides the obvious, Keon's obvious, he doesn't count. Which player or players do you think, and I comment away on YouTube, whatever, do you believe Florida State is going to go to as a secondary guy to Keon? Just something to think about in your head. We'll discuss that in segment number 2, because quite honestly, I got a long list here, and I think it's a lot of fun to talk about. So we'll go down that list. All right. Today's sponsor is going to be Jace Medical. Jace Medical. The Jace Case is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treats the most common and deadly bacterial infections. For an example, anyone that travels, like I travel constantly, the Jace Case is a great option because you don't know what's going to happen. For instance, I just recently got drilled by a bunch of fire ants. If you live in the South, like I live in Central Florida, at some point you're going to reach down at your leg and they're going to be on you. If you walk through any grass, it can happen. If you're allergic to something like that, or maybe a bee sting or something else, it could happen that way. It could be something else. You could have options. And the reason this is very specific, you can design the Jace Case the way you want for your family situation or just yourself. It's up to you. These can lead to all kinds of different things going on in your life too. So if something changes, you can mix it up. You can also customize your case as you go along. It doesn't have to be just one thing. Later on, you can also make adjustments as you see fit. So go to jacemedical.com and enter code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code LOCKEDON at jacemedical.com. Also, today we are brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is one of my favorite apps to use. It's very easy, and it is very easy to sign up. Snap into action this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place just a $5 bet. Pretty good deal. $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is very easy to navigate. There's a wide range of betting options, including you can do over-unders. You can talk about betting on one player, how many yards they get, how many catches. If you're a hockey person, if a goalie gets a shutout, etc. It's up to you on the sport and the type of totals that you want to go with. Hockey, basketball, football, baseball, MMA, boxing, tennis. You figure it out for yourself and you go from there. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right, segment 2. This is just kind of fun, something I thought I would try because it's something I'm interested in. I like to look at it and say, okay, Florida State should win this game. Anybody that's watching this podcast, Wake Forest fan or whatever it may be, casual fan, Florida State fan, etc. If you didn't know before you started this podcast, Florida State's probably going to win. Okay, they're the better football team. But at the same time, which players do what and by how much? Keon Coleman is as good a receiver as there is in college football, in my opinion. So I'm scooting him to the side. If Florida State tries to force some action his way, he's good enough to make it happen. Let's just leave Keon out of it for the sake of argument. Let's say he gets 6 catches for 80 yards. Fine, whatever. But besides him, who would you go with for the #1 receiver? Yardage. Let's go yardage. Jaheim Bell? Is it Williamson? Maybe Hakeem gets a screen and goes 70 yards. He's certainly capable. You can ask Syracuse how fast he is. Maybe the second leading receiver could even be a running back. Do not discount. Because again, he's one of my favorite players to watch in college football when he gets the ball in a one-on-one. How many people really want to tackle Lawrence Tofili? Head up, and he's got a 3-yard gap between himself and the player in front of him. It's not many. Not many will be successful either. Do not discount a running back. So if you're going to reply to this, and you're more than welcome to pick anybody. Again, just don't pick Keon. That's too easy. Which guy would you go with? And why? If you think there's a matchup or if you think there's a scenario you want to add that in, by all means. I think there's a lot of different ways to look at this. But here's something else to think about. You have to adjust to what teams do. And Norvell talks about this in his press conferences, coaching clinics. You'll hear this off the record conversations that I've been a part of. you hear the phrase, or in some capacity, you take what the defense gives you, and then every now and then you force feed your best player. Well, in Florida State's case, even if Keon, let's say Keon didn't play, they'd still have 3 big-time running backs that are proven, plus Keziah, that's a really good football player. They got 4 running backs, and they have Jordan Travis, so you're scooting up. Those passing yards can go anywhere. Don't be surprised if somebody like Deuce Spann, who just had the big return, and he went 99 against Duke, maybe he has 2 catches, but for 86 yards. You hit him on an over route and you catch him in stride, yeah, he's fast. So my pick, I'm going, and I pick him, seems like every week in some capacity for something. I'm going Jaheim Bell beyond Keon to lead the Noles in pass receiving yardage against Wake. That's just my pick. I think he will be consistent, and if I had to guess, he's going to have the most receptions. It's just a sidebar. It doesn't mean anything about yardage, because somebody could hit a 70-yarder and then end up leading the team. Again, Hakeem Williams, you throw him the ball, probably not going to catch him if he hits it in stride. So there's a lot of different options. The other guy that's kind of maybe a dark horse, depends on how Wake Forest tries to defend Bell. What about Morlock? He doesn't get a lot of love. I probably haven't discussed him as much as I should. I know there's a few people that have commented on the YouTube page about just how good he is, but maybe he's the guy that gets the breakout game. Because I was thinking about this earlier today, just thinking about show ideas. Name me a team other than Washington. I think that one's very comparable. Other than Washington, that's as balanced as Florida State. They're loaded at the skill spots. They're very good. That's as balanced as Florida State. I mean, Washington has 3 NFL receivers. That's pretty damn good. But they may not even have the same kind of depth, because I don't think they have as many running backs. I'm pretty positive of that. So who would you put as the most balanced? Running back, quarterback, receivers to the Noles. That's why this challenge for which receiver or player on offense ends up leading Florida State in receiving this week. It's not a lock. It's really hard to pick. I mean, again, if somebody wanted to pick Tofili beyond Keon, I wouldn't blame you, because the screen pass can certainly go to the house. It did this last game against Duke. You hit those kinds of plays in Florida State's offense because they've got talent across the board. It's executed well. And let's give him credit. Norvell and quite frankly, his staff do a tremendous job of setting up a play on first down for something they're looking for on third. To gauge what you're doing, to look at your personnel, down and distance, how long certain players have been on the field for the opposing team. He's tired. Let's attack him. All these things play into factor. And Florida State does a tremendous job of it. Hats off to them. Now I just think it's just pick your poison. They do a good enough job. It's hard for me to pick, which kind of surprising in a way, but honestly, it's pretty fun. And I don't think enough people realize just how good a play caller Norvell is and why that it works so well, because a lot of the plays they do, especially the run game, are traditional, like 2 guards pull, outside zone or something like that. They're not super unusual or anything, but it's when they do it, the formations, the down and distance, there's a lot of nuance to that. That's a big part of play calling, and he's very, very good at it. And again, it's why any one of these young men could be the leading receiver, even above Keon. It wouldn't shock me. How many tight ends have the speed that Jaheim does? He hits the crease. I mean, he'd go for 50. It's not going to surprise anybody. Remember the deep ball that Jordan just barely missed him on? I think it was a post from the left towards the middle of the field. He just missed him. He might have scored on that. Not many guys his size get it up and get it down like he does down a football field. So Florida State has a lot of different options for that. I'm curious to see what you have to say on it. But anyway, third segment is something a little bit different. There are, 3 areas, quite honestly, that they need to improve on, but 2 of them go together. One of them is super frustrating that I won't get any Florida State fan to complain about me saying it. Another one, a few people have questioned what I'm talking about. I'm going to get into more specifics with it. It's why I'm bringing it up in segment 3. And it's areas that Florida State must improve on, but it's a little different than just like a big picture area. It's a little more broken down. So we're going to get into that in segment 3. Also note that the Locked On College Football Live show will be up on Friday, once again at 11 a.m. Check it out. It's going to have all the pregame stuff for across the country, ACC, Big Ten, SEC, etc. Matchups, injuries. Might be some coaching firing news coming up here pretty soon based on some stuff I've been hearing in college football. Maybe a little bit of Harbaugh talk. It's weird what's going on with Jim Harbaugh and the alleged sign stealing. I wouldn't be surprised if that was brought up. So check it out. You can find it here on the Locked On channels all across the YouTube, Locked On Seminoles included. So with that being said, we are going to get into segment 3 here in just a second, right after we talk about our third segment sponsor. This show is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what makes your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything from what you need to maintain your vehicle, level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts, your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available for U.S. customers. All right. Segment 3. This is going to be fairly short and to the point. Because Florida State obviously has a very good football team. If I'm going to talk about areas to improve, it's condensed, but a little bit of specific area within this. So number one, this is the one that's just straightforward. There's no other way to say it. They just haven't lived up to what they should. And that's penalties. If you were to guess in your head, where would you say the Noles rank in penalty yards per game? There are 133 teams in the FBS. Take a wild guess in your head. How about 96th? That is the definition of undisciplined. 96th. They give up 59 yards a game. They just got to get better. I don't have to talk about that much. I don't have to say that much. That's just duh. So I'm going to leave it there. Especially those dumb 15-yarders like along the sidelines, late hit, any of the 15-yard variety that's after the whistle kind of stuff. It's got to go. Number 2, and this is the one I want to talk about a little more because it's the area that I'm not very happy about. And it's really the only one overall that I think is holding Florida State back for competing for the biggest prize of them all. And that is rush defense. But I want to get more specific on it. Chunk yardage plays are something I talk about constantly. 10-yard plays, 20-yard plays, 30-yard plays, or more in each, and on and on and on. Nationally, they're 69th with 10-yard plays allowed in the run game. They've given up 34, 10 or more yards. And 20-plus yard plays, they've given up 12 in the run game. Just on the second category there, I just picked it up for curiosity. And I know they haven't played as good a schedule, but they're just so consistent. I've seen enough of them because I watched all their games in some capacity. Michigan has given up 4 runs this year of 20 or more yards. 4. Look, it's a run gap fit thing. Even when Clemson or LSU, the 2 most talented teams they played, and Duke's pretty good too up front, when Florida State, quote unquote, fitted up, that's a comment that coaches use, teams could grind out 6, 8, 10, 12-yard plays, but there was always somebody hitting the guy. Florida State has enough talent. This is not rocket science. It's not. Florida State, though, on these kinds of plays, and I remember a lot of them because I watch all the plays, there was nobody there at the edge. There was nobody there in like the B gap. Just straight up mental errors. And you got to give credit to the other team. I understand that. They certainly give out college football scholarships as well. But this is basic stuff, and it's not a Fuller thing or anything like that. This is player. The players in the front 7 in particular have to figure this out. The safeties, corners got to be involved, but this is a front 7 deal because the talent is not the issue either. It's mental, and why that's happening, I have no idea. But we're 7 games in. This number here, where I see 69th in the country, needs to be in the 40s real quick. real quick, it's Wake Forest, folks. If they even have one play of 20-plus yards, it better be a quarterback scramble where it was a cover zero and he just made the first guy miss in the backfield or something, which still isn't good, but he better be running against grass to get a 23-yard run or something. I can live with that because it's an aggressive play. But just a straight run from Wake Forest going for 20 yards in this game is a no-no. Second thing, I also want to see a little more diversity in how they get some of these guys to the ground at the second level. Just more gang tackling, more hats to the ball. They weren't as good as they should have been. And Herbstreit talked about it in the Duke game early on. The effort wasn't there. It's kind of goofy. You've got a nationally televised game. You got the game day crew up in the booth. It's crazy. I want to see effort. I know it's on the road. It's Wake. It's noon game. Do not care. Make it happen. You're better. Make it happen. Florida State needs to have some more negatives too, which they should against Wake because they got better talent. But they played pretty well against Pittsburgh last week, so Florida State can't take them lightly. And Florida State traditionally Wake Forest has given Florida State some issues over the last 10, 15 years here and there. It's just kind of random. So they've got a good coaching staff. They're going to try some new things. They got nothing to lose. You better be mentally prepared and energy level better be high. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Make sure you check out later this week. I'm hoping to hear a little more recruiting news, waiting on a few things, but I don't get to dictate that. We'll see what happens. Also of note, I'm going to make my prediction on Friday, so just keep that in mind. But thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button, that notification bell, and share this podcast. Give us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, etc. Truly appreciate it. Everybody have a great day. Thank you much.